It has been 2 whole years since I was sitting here at On Track Studio and getting in your ears as a podcaster. So, for our first episode back, I want to catch you up on what's been happening in my life, what's been happening at the Good Studio, and then talk about what we've got to come and what you can expect from Boring is Bad for Business. Whether you are a long-time listener or you've just discovered this podcast for the first time, there is something in here for you. So the biggest change was in early 2023, we restructured the Good Studio and I became the sole director. So I am going to talk a little bit about what that transition was like for me, because that transition really set the scene for the future plans of the Good Studio and what's happening at the moment. So last year, 2023, was a big transition year for me, and it was a major year of simplification. The main thing that, of course, there was a transition of ownership structure that happened with the Good Studio and, of course, this podcast. But in my family life, we'd also welcomed a second child to our family. So at that time in my life, time was the most valuable resource. I do want to share a little bit about what the ins and outs of that looked like, because I think as a woman in business and as fellow women in business, or even anyone who employs women in business, it's really important to share the stories of what growing or working in business looks like when you're also raising a family on the side. I know for one that when I was growing up, even through like early career days, these stories weren't shared very much. So I didn't really have a lot to learn on, to lean on to work out the best plan for me. So if you are unfamiliar with 4-month-old kids, they do tend to sleep a lot, and basing it on the previous child and what I was thinking was there'd be a lot of work through nap times. Every child is different, as a lot of parents will know. And of course, our second didn't really do long naps during the day. So for the first bit of 2023, we're in sort of like that 4-6 month age. The nap time work thing didn't really work for us. So we made the decision to bring in a babysitter a few times a week to really keep things going. But of course, there's only, there's a financial limit to how much we could afford to pay, like our family could afford to bring in the babysitter. But there's also a limit, I guess, at that time when you have a young child and you have other kids in the family for how much you can work. So really at that time, it was just about focusing down, working with our current clients and keeping that chugging along. It definitely was a juggle, I'm not going to lie there. But I think the biggest lesson and the thing that really stuck with me throughout 2023 and heading into 2024, I kept having this word come to mind, and it was simplification, keeping it simple. So simplification, this is really what led to the evolution of the Good Studio and who we can help. So if you haven't heard it, we've really gone from helping, I guess, all types of businesses in brand, positioning, marketing, design, and websites, really nailing down to service-based businesses. This meant that we can systemize the way that we deliver our work, but we can also talk more specifically to service-based businesses like yourself. There were a couple of other changes that have happened as well. So we said goodbye to our studio space. The Good Studio now works 100% remotely. Primarily, I'm set up from home, but we also have team members sitting in Sydney, Brisbane, and even somebody in Croatia. And as for me, I'm still sitting in that sweet spot between strategy and design. I have been picking up the tools a little bit more, and I'm really enjoying that. What's to come for season 2 of Boring is Bad for Business? This season, we are changing the format of the podcast. So once a week, I'll be sitting down and teaching service-based businesses like yourself how you can embrace brand-led marketing to grow a better business. So that is one that is differentiated, it's memorable, but it's also positioned to attract better leads and clients and also attract better employees and help retain them too. On the alternating week, I'm sitting down with a female business leader from the Sunshine Coast and asking them about their experience of brand in a service business and their experience of being a female in business. These episodes are called Making Waves, and I cannot wait to share some of the conversations that I've been having. I'm particularly interested in showcasing the amazing and diverse talent that we have right here on the Sunshine Coast. Our region is going through such an incredible change at the moment, and I think it's important that we document and we explore what that looks like. And of course, something that has sort of stuck out with me through this last couple of years, and it's always been a theme in business, is how incredible the community of women are that rally behind us. So something I want to do, it's a bit of a passion project. There is overlap between Boring is Bad for Business, is share these conversations with you. So that's the recap of what's been happening at the Good Studio, a little bit of what's been happening in my life personally, and also what's to come for this podcast. I'm not going to leave it there. I do want to teach something. I really want to give you value as a service-based business, because I think being brand-led, there is so much opportunity. It's something that I don't see done well across the board. And there are reasons for that, of course. Like the economy is quite tight at the moment, and there's this natural allure to be drawn towards more tactical things. And what that means is like we're hearing noise all the time about invest in Facebook ads, meta ads. You should be doing SEO. You should be doing advertising. They're all your tactical things. And yes, you need to be doing those. But what I mean by brand-led is going back to the basics, understanding what a brand's positioning is, what your positioning is, what matters to your clients, and then putting the time and energy into developing creative ways of delivering that before you jump into the execution. If you are a service-based business, you're a marketer or you're an owner, and you ever felt like your marketing is feeling flat, this part of the episode is for you. Maybe you've heard the word brand thrown around and you don't exactly know what it means or why it's important or how to actually embrace it. Or perhaps you think that branding, which is a really common thing, this thought, branding is only for the bigger companies and we don't need to do it. This little section, it's going to dispel those myths and it's going to make it really simple for you to understand. The first thing I need everyone to know is that your brand isn't actually something that you own. Now, this probably sounds really counterintuitive considering I do talk about logos, brand identity, websites, but you need to understand you do not own your brand. Your brand is simply a reputation or a perception that is in the minds of your customers, whether they are current customers or soon-to-be customers. This is the problem that I have with branding. All of this talk sounds really hard to understand in practical terms. So let me give you 2 examples. Take, for example, 2 law firms. Actually, let's go accounting. It's something that we deal with accountants all the time as business owners. Take 2 accounting firms. We've got firm A, has an amazing marketing plan in place. They've got really slick visuals. They've got a great brand identity. But as a client of Brand A, the experience kind of sucks. Whenever I try to talk to my accountant, I get the phone ringing out. I don't get a response for 2 weeks. And worst case of all, there's actually mistakes in the accounting. Now, this is not actually my accountant. This is only an example. Let's also take firm B. So firm B, it's a little bit scrappier in the marketing, but the client experience is exceptional. And this speaks to firm B's clients because they stay and they speak on behalf of firm B all the time. They're always referring this accounting firm to their friends in business, and they just can't stop saying how amazing they are. With these 2 examples, you can see that despite what you've got visually or physically, firm A and firm B have 2 very different brands. So firm A's brand is not actually all the things that are visible. Firm A brand, it's pretty rubbish. It's not very trustworthy. It's inconsistent. Whereas firm B, you might think that their brand, if you're thinking in terms of physical things, it looks pretty scrappy. It doesn't look very trustworthy. It's actually firm B's brand who is stronger. Now, in terms of marketing, that's not the final kind of destination. Both of these examples have got room to grow and they would have different focuses. So for firm A, it would be about, great, you've got the visuals, you've got the marketing plan in place, but really what needs to be worked on is the client experience. And if they do have those foundations, it would also be about bringing through the mission, the vision, the values, and making sure that that is rolled out through the client experience. Whereas firm B, we know that their brand is strong, but perhaps the business has just been so successful without formally going through the process of strategic branding. So for firm B, it would be all about let's bring those outward-facing parts of the business to match the client experience. Think of it like this. If you're turning up to a dinner party and maybe you don't know too many people, you can't control what other people think of you when they're meeting you for the first time, but you definitely can do a few things to make sure it is a little bit favorable in your way. Your brand is exactly like this. You can be doing things across the board that can be building a strong brand to help set the perception that you're after in your clients' minds. So that's the first lesson that I want you to remember as a service-based business who is trying to build a leading brand. You don't own your brand, it's your reputation, and it lies in the minds of your clients and future clients. The second thing I want you to know as a business who is trying to embrace a brand-led marketing strategy, it is a long-term play. So all of the things, I guess, that take away from brand-led marketing are short-term thinking. It's quick wins. It's like jumping into your SEO strategy. It's jumping into your ads without really thinking about your position in the market and without really thinking about where you want to take your business from where it is today and into the future. I'm not saying that things like SEO, ads, sponsorships are not important. In fact, I think every business needs to have a strategy that involves multiple channels for marketing and attracting their ideal clients. But the problem lies is when you jump into those things without first getting your foundations correct. In fact, what happens when you rely on those tactics, you actually end up in a race for the bottom. It's all about competing on price and product. Let's make this real by going through another example. I am going to talk about 2 HR firms this time and their marketing and what they do to demonstrate. So, Firm A, this HR firm, they are advertising on LinkedIn. Their primary way of getting leads is by running LinkedIn ads, and they have keywords that they select, and they often do use price and promotions and discounts to get people in the door. Whereas Firm B take a more brand-led approach. They don't really use a lot of paid ads like Firm A. Instead, they are really centered on being a thought leader in their space. They have invested really heavily on understanding their clients. They share a lot of information and valuable information to their ideal clients for free. This information really emphasizes how well they understand creating a great company culture and how well they understand businesses can benefit from having an incredible employee experience. Firm B's strategy is all about showing people the transformation that HR can have on a business and what it can do for them. Now, while Firm A, when the ads are running and they're working really well, they can see a big uptick in their leads coming through. However, when things change, Firm A only have their ads to fall back on, whereas Firm B have established themselves as thought leaders in their space. And this here is the real difference in brand-led marketing and it being a long-term game. Firm A, they can get the leads straight away when they turn those ads on, whereas Firm B, it's a longer-term game to really earn that position of the expert in their field. But the benefit is that over time, they already have that reputation. And as they turn those ads on, they are in a far better position than Firm A. Now, for the final fundamental of branding and thing that you need to know for your business is that alignment is key. So if we go back to the start, when we talk about branding, it's your reputation, but it's also earned. So it's earned out of all of the things that you are doing in your business. That does include things like your website, your brand identity, the emails that you're sending out, the way that your staff deliver your service. Altogether, those parts grow your reputation and help you earn that position of a leading brand or a thought leader in your space. Think of it this way. Your brand is like an orchestra. So it's made up of many multiple instruments. And, one instrument on itself, it can make a little bit of an effect or an impact, but really the power in an orchestra all playing together when they are conducted by someone at the front and leading them and coordinating all the parts, it's just so incredible. And that really is what we need to be doing in our brands. And as marketing managers, as owners, or whoever is in charge of your brand, you really need to play that part of the director and pulling those pieces in unison to work together. And there you have it. That is my crash course in the 3 fundamentals of branding that you need to know if you want to change your service-based business from a business to a leading brand. We've covered a lot of ground. We talked about the fact that your brand is a reputation. It's something that you don't own. It lies in the minds of your consumers. We have also talked about that branding and being brand-led, it's a really long-term game and not to be, pulled aside or pulled away from your end goal by the allure of short-term tactical marketing. And we've also demonstrated the point that the brand is the sum of all of the parts and they all need to be working together in harmony to create the effect and get you to that end goal of what you're trying to achieve. I know branding has this tendency to feel a little bit ambiguous, very intangible. Don't worry. I'm going to take you through all of the phases, the ins and outs of what it means to be brand-led through this podcast. So if you are ready to transform your service-based business into a leading brand, hit follow, join me for this. And next week, if you are in the building, construction, or design industry, you definitely want to tune in. I sit down with one of my favorite women in this space to talk about her business, brand, and the amazing things that she is doing here on the Sunshine Coast.